The siren started at exactly 3 in the morning on 7. Was sleeping in her small apartment when the first explosion shook the building. She jumped out of bed and ran to the window. The sky was on fire. Bright orange and red filled the darkness as ships dropped from the clouds. They were not human ships. She grabbed her emergency bag and ran down the stairs. People were screaming everywhere. Families carried children in their arms. Old people moved as fast as they could. Everyone knew what was happening. The had come. The Empire had warned humanity many times. They said humans were too loud, too proud, too fast in their expansion across the stars. But humans never thought they would actually attack. They were members of the Galactic Council. They followed rules. They signed treaties. But tonight they broke every rule. Made it to the street and saw the full horror. Buildings were falling. Bodies lay on the ground. Soldiers in their gray armor marched through the colony, shooting at anything that moved. Their weapons made no sound, but the death was very real. She was a commander in the Earth Defense Force, but she was here on leave visiting her parents. Her uniform was back on Earth. Her weapons were back on her ship. Here, she was just another civilian running for her life. A soldier turned toward her. His 4 eyes looked at her with no emotion. He raised his weapon. Dove behind a broken wall just as the blast hit where she had been standing. Her heart was beating so hard she could hear it in her ears. She had trained for combat her whole life, but this was different. This was not a battle. This was a massacre. She waited until the soldier walked past, then she moved through the shadows. She had to get to the emergency shelter. That was the only safe place in the colony. Along the way, she saw things that would stay in her mind forever. A mother holding her dead child. A man crying over his destroyed home. Children wandering alone, looking for parents they would never find again. The attack lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the ships flew away. They left behind nothing but fire, smoke, and death. 12,000 humans died that night. 12,000 innocent people who had done nothing wrong. 3 days later, the news reached Earth. Admiral was in his office when the message came. He read it once, then read it again. His hands started to shake, not from fear, from anger. He had served in the Earth Defense Force for 30 years. He had seen many terrible things, but this was different. This was not a battle between soldiers. This was murder, pure and simple murder. He called an emergency meeting with the Earth Council. Leaders from every nation gathered in the Great Hall. The room was silent as showed them the images from 7. Some people cried. Some people looked away. But everyone felt the same burning rage in their hearts. "We must respond," said. "We cannot let this stand." The president of the United Earth Government, a woman named, stood up. She was known for her calm nature. She never made quick decisions. But today, her eyes were cold. "We will bring this to the Galactic Council," she said. "We will demand justice." 1 week later, Ambassador stood before the Galactic Council. The council chamber was massive. It held representatives from over 200 species. Some were tall and thin. Some were short and wide. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had no body at all and existed only as light. But they all had one thing in common. They all looked at the human with a mix of pity and amusement. Was young for an ambassador. She was only 35 years old, but she had earned her position through hard work and intelligence. Today, she would need both. "The Empire attacked our colony without warning," she said. Her voice was strong and clear. 12,000 of our people are dead. We demand that the Council take action against The representative, a tall creature with gray skin and 4 cold eyes, stood up. His name was, and he was known for his cruelty. "The humans were expanding too quickly," said. "They were a threat to the balance of the galaxy. We simply removed the threat." "They were farmers and teachers and children," shouted. "They were not soldiers. They were not a threat to anyone." The council members whispered to each other. Some nodded. Some shook their heads. but none of them looked surprised, none of them looked angry. The High Chancellor, a being made of pure energy, spoke in a voice that echoed through the chamber. The Council has heard the complaint of the humans. We will now vote on whether to punish the Empire. The vote took only minutes. 187 species voted no. Only 12 voted yes. The rest did not vote at all. The motion fails, the High Chancellor announced. The Council will take no action against the Empire. Stood frozen. She could not believe what she had heard. 12,000 people were dead, and the galaxy did not care. Looked at her and smiled. It was a cruel, ugly smile. "Go home, little human," he said. "Go home and accept your place in the galaxy. You are small, you are weak, you are nothing." Said nothing. She turned and walked out of the chamber with her head held high, but inside her heart was breaking. When she returned to Earth, she went straight to Admiral's office. "They refused," she said. "They laughed at us. They said we are nothing." Nodded slowly. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes burned with a fire that had never seen before. "Then we will show them what nothing can do," he said quietly. He pressed a button on his desk. Across Earth, across every human colony in the galaxy, a message went out. It was a simple message, only 3 words. "Begin Project Shadow." In secret bases hidden deep underground, engineers started working. In hidden shipyards floating in the darkness between stars, workers began building. In training camps on 100 different worlds, soldiers started preparing. The galaxy thought humans were weak. The galaxy thought humans would cry and accept their fate. The galaxy was wrong. Humanity was done asking for justice. Now they would take it. Admiral looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there they were celebrating their victory. They thought they had won. They had no idea what was coming. 6 months passed after the massacre on 7. The galaxy forgot about the humans. That was how things worked in the Galactic Council. Weak species suffered. Strong species ruled. The humans had suffered, and now they would fade into the background like so many others before them. At least that was what everyone believed. Ambassador returned to the council chamber every month. She smiled politely at the other representatives. She made small talk about trade and weather and the price of metals. She never mentioned 7. She never mentioned justice. She never mentioned revenge. The other ambassadors thought she had accepted defeat. Some of them even felt sorry for her. "The humans are learning their place," told the other leaders. "They are like trained animals now, quiet and obedient." But did not see what did when she returned to her quarters each night. He did not see her study the military reports that human spies had stolen. He did not see her mark the locations of every base, every shipyard, every weapons factory on her maps. She was not accepting defeat. She was preparing for war. On Earth, Admiral worked 20 hours every day. He slept in his office. He ate his meals at his desk. His wife begged him to come home, but he could not. Not yet. Not until everything was ready. Project Shadow was the biggest military operation in human history. It had 3 parts. The first part was the fleet. In hidden shipyards scattered across the galaxy, humans were building warships unlike anything they had made before. These were not the small patrol ships that the galaxy knew about. These were massive battle cruisers with weapons that could crack a planet in half. They were fast and strong and deadly. Commander Jin was in charge of the shipyards. He was a quiet man who rarely smiled, but he was the best engineer humanity had ever produced. Under his leadership, the workers built 50 warships in just 6 months. It was impossible, the engineers said. Jin did not believe in impossible. "We will sleep when we are dead," he told his teams. "Until then, we work." The second part was the soldiers. In training camps hidden on moons and asteroids, the best fighters from every human colony gathered. They trained for 16 hours every day. They learned how to fight They learned their weaknesses. They learned their strengths. They learned everything. Captain led the training. She was small for a soldier, barely 5 feet tall, but she was the deadliest fighter in the Earth Defense Force. She had won more combat awards than any other soldier in history. "They think we are soft," she told her soldiers. "They think we are weak because we care about each other. They think our kindness is a weakness." She paused and looked at the thousands of faces watching her. "They are wrong. Our love for each other is our greatest strength. We fight harder because we have something worth fighting for. We die harder because we know what we protect." The soldiers trained in secret. They practiced attacking bases in computer simulations. They memorized every corridor, every door, every weakness. When the time came, they would move like ghosts, fast and silent and deadly. The third part was the intelligence network. Human spies spread across the galaxy like shadows. They worked as servants in houses. They worked as cleaners in bases. They listened to every conversation. They stole every document. They learned every secret. Led the spy network. After surviving the massacre on 7, she had volunteered for the most dangerous job. She wanted to hurt them more than anyone. "I watched them kill children," she told Admiral. "I will watch them fall." She spent 6 months on there pretending to be a servant. They barely noticed her. Humans all looked the same to them, small and weak and unimportant. That was their mistake. Mapped every military installation on the planet. She recorded every patrol schedule. She counted every soldier. She sent the information back to Earth through secret channels. They never suspected a thing. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council continued as usual. Trade agreements were signed. Disputes were settled. Wars were started and ended. The universe moved on. They grew bolder. They attacked 2 more human trading ships. They killed the crews and stole the cargo. When the humans complained to the council, they laughed. "What will you do about it?" asked at a council meeting. "Will you cry again? Will you beg for justice?" Smiled at him. It was a strange smile, calm and cold and patient. "We will do nothing," she said. "What can we do? We are small and weak, as you said." Laughed and walked away. He told his friends that the humans were finally broken. He could not have been more wrong. On the last day of the 6th month, Admiral called a meeting of all the project's shadow leaders. They gathered in a secret bunker deep beneath the mountains of what used to be Switzerland. Commander Jin reported that all 50 warships were ready. They were hidden in the darkness between stars, waiting for orders. Captain reported that all soldiers were ready. 10,000 of the best fighters humanity had ever trained, waiting for orders. Reported that all intelligence was gathered. Every base, every weakness, every blind spot was known. Admiral looked at his team. These were the best humans had to offer. They had worked without rest for 6 months. They had given everything for this moment. "Tomorrow, we begin Operation Black Dawn," he said. "Tomorrow, we show the galaxy that humans are not to be underestimated." The room was silent. "I will not lie to you," continued. "Some of us will not come back. This is war. People die in war, but we fight for something greater than ourselves. We fight for the 12,000 who died on 7. We fight for every human who was called weak. We fight for our children and their children." He stood up and looked each person in the eye. "The galaxy thinks we are nothing. Tomorrow we prove them wrong." That night, across the galaxy, human soldiers said goodbye to their families. They wrote letters to be delivered if they did not return. They hugged their children and kissed their loved ones. They knew what they were about to do. They knew the risks, but they went anyway. Because that is what humans do. When something threatens their family, they fight. When someone hurts their people, they strike back. When the universe tells them to give up, they stand tall and say no. Admiral sat alone in his office as the clock counted down to midnight. In a few hours, the largest military operation in human history would begin. He thought about the 12,000 who died on 7. He thought about the children who would never grow up. He thought about the families that were destroyed. "I am sorry it took so long," he whispered to the dead, "but justice is coming." The clock struck midnight. Operation Black Dawn had begun. The first base to fall was on the moon of. Commander Jin led the attack himself. His ship came out of nowhere, appearing from the darkness like a ghost. The sensors never saw them coming. By the time the alarms started, it was already too late. Human soldiers dropped from the sky in small pods. They landed silently on the base and moved through the corridors with deadly speed. Captain was at the front, her weapon raised and ready. "Remember," she said through her radio, "no civilian targets, only military. We are not like them." The soldiers tried to fight back, but they were not ready. They had grown lazy in their power. They had forgotten what it meant to face a real enemy. The battle lasted 43 minutes. When it was over, every soldier on the base was dead or captured. The weapons factories were destroyed. The communications tower was ash, and not a single human life was lost. Jin looked at the burning remains of the base and felt nothing. This was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out again and again. In the system, human ships destroyed 3 shipyards. The massive structures cracked and fell into the void of space. In the sector, human soldiers took control of a major weapons depot. They captured enough weapons to supply an army. In the nebula, human fighters engaged a patrol fleet. The battle lasted 2 hours. At the end, 27 ships were debris. The humans lost only 4. They could not understand what was happening. Where did these ships come from? Where did these soldiers come from? The humans were supposed to be weak. The humans were supposed to be broken. Received the reports in his palace on the. His 4 eyes went wide with shock as he read each message. "This is impossible," he said. "The humans do not have this power." But the reports kept coming. Base after base fell. Fleet after fleet was destroyed. In just 72 hours, the humans had done more damage to the Empire than any enemy in 1,000 years. On Earth, Admiral watched the operations from his command center. Screens covered every wall showing feeds from across the galaxy. Green lights meant success. Red lights meant failure. So far, every light was green. "Phase 2 complete," Jin reported through the communication system. "All shipyards destroyed." "Phase 3 complete," reported. "All ground bases captured or eliminated." Nodded slowly. Everything was going according to plan, but the hardest part was still to come. "Begin Phase 4, he ordered. "Target the." Was already on the waiting. For 6 months, she had lived as a servant in the house of a general. She had cleaned floors and served food and pretended to be invisible. But now, her real mission would begin. She moved through the dark streets of the capital city, avoiding patrols and security cameras. She had memorized every route, every blind spot, every weakness. She moved like a shadow. Her target was the planetary defense grid. They had built a massive shield around their world. It could stop any attack from space. As long as the shield was active, the human fleet could not touch the planet. Was going to bring it down. The Defense Control Center was buried deep underground. It was protected by hundreds of soldiers and dozens of security systems. Breaking in was supposed to be impossible. Did it in 20 minutes. She used the access codes that her spy network had stolen. She walked through checkpoints wearing a stolen uniform. She smiled at guards who did not know they were already dead. When she reached the control room, there were only 4 technicians inside. They looked up in surprise as she entered. "Who are you?" one of them asked. Did not answer. She moved fast, faster than any could react. In 10 seconds, all 4 technicians were unconscious on the floor. She sat down at the main control panel and entered the shutdown codes. They had built their system to be. They had used the most advanced security in the galaxy. But they had not planned for someone to simply walk in and turn it off. The planetary shield flickered and died. Above the planet, the human fleet waited. 50 warships hung in the darkness, their weapons charged and ready. They had been watching the shield, waiting for it to fall. Commander Jin saw the shield disappear on his sensors. He allowed himself a small smile. "All ships," he said, "begin the attack." The human fleet descended on them like a storm. They did not target cities. They did not target civilians. They targeted only military installations. One by one, the great military bases burned. The shipyards where they built their war machines were reduced to rubble. The training camps where they raised their soldiers were destroyed. Watched from his palace as his world burned, he could not believe what he was seeing. This was not possible. This was not real. His advisors ran around in panic. His generals screamed orders into communications devices that no longer worked. His empire was falling apart in front of his eyes. "How?" he whispered. "How did they do this?" The answer came in the form of a message. Every screen on the planet suddenly showed the same image: a human face, a human woman. It was Ambassador. "People of the Empire," she said. Her voice was calm and cold. "6 months ago, your soldiers attacked our colony on 7. They killed 12,000 innocent people, men, women, and children who had done nothing wrong." She paused and let the words sink in. "We asked the Galactic Council for justice. They refused. Your representative laughed at us. He told us to accept our place. He told us we were nothing." Her eyes seemed to look directly at. "Now look at your world. Look at your burning bases and your destroyed fleets. This is what nothing can do. This is the price of touching our people." The message continued to play on every screen across the galaxy. Every species saw it. Every world heard it. "We are not monsters," continued. "We did not attack your civilians. We did not kill your children. We are not like you. But make no mistake, we can be. Push us again and we will show you what humans are truly capable of." The message ended. On Earth, in the command center, Admiral watched the final reports come in. The operation was a complete success. Every military target had been destroyed. The Empire's ability to wage war was gone. And they had done it in just 72 hours. Leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. He thought about the 12,000 who died on 7. He hoped they could rest now. "Sir," one of his officers said, "the Galactic Council is requesting an emergency meeting." Opened his eyes and smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had waited a long time for this moment. "Tell them we will attend," he said. "It is time the galaxy learned who we really are." The officer saluted and left. Looked at the screens showing the burning military installations. The fire lit up the darkness of space like tiny stars. Humanity had sent its message. Now they would see if the galaxy was listening. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. 200 species sat in their seats, staring at the empty podium where the human ambassador would soon stand. No one whispered. No one moved. The only sound was the soft hum of the life support systems. They had all seen the videos. They had all watched the military burn. They had all heard Ambassador's message. And now they were afraid. For 1,000 years, the Council had maintained order through power. The strong ruled. The weak obeyed. That was how the galaxy worked. That was how it had always worked. But now, a species they had dismissed, as nothing had destroyed one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy in just 3 days. Everything they believed was wrong. The doors opened, and the human delegation entered. Ambassador walked at the front. She wore a simple black dress, the color of mourning. Behind her came Admiral in his military uniform, and Commander Jin and Captain, and the heroes of Operation Black Dawn. They walked slowly to the podium, their footsteps echoing in the silent chamber. Was there too, sitting in the section. His 4 eyes burned with hatred, but he did not speak. He could not speak. His military was gone. His power was broken. He was nothing now. Stepped up to the podium and looked out at the assembled representatives. She saw fear in their eyes, fear and respect. It was a strange feeling. "Thank you for meeting with us," she said. Her voice was calm and measured. "I know many of you have questions." The High Chancellor, the being of pure energy who led the council, spoke first. "The council wishes to know if the human attack on thee is over, or do you plan to continue your operations?" "Our military operations are complete," said. "We have destroyed the military's ability to wage war. We have no interest in further violence." A murmur went through the chamber. Some species seemed relieved, others seemed disappointed. "Why did you not simply destroy their planet?" asked the representative from the collective. "You had the power. You could have ended the forever." Looked at the representative. He was a small creature with big eyes, from a species known for their ruthlessness. "Because we are not murderers," she said. "We do not kill civilians. We do not slaughter the innocent. We destroyed their military because their military attacked us. The people did nothing wrong." "But they supported the attack," they said. "They celebrated when your colony burned." "Some did," agreed, "but not all. There are children on that world who never asked for war. There are families who just want to live in peace. We will not punish them for the crimes of their leaders." Admiral stepped forward. "Let me show you something." He pressed a button and the screens around the chamber lit up. Images appeared, documents, video recordings, evidence. "This is what we found in the military databases," said. "Records of every attack they have made in the last 100 years, not just against humans, against dozens of species." The images showed destruction, burning colonies, dead bodies, crying children. They had been doing this for a long time. They had just never been caught. "The mining station massacre," continued. 40,000 dead. The council ruled it an accident. The representative went pale. "The colony disappearance, 16,000 people. The council said it was a plague." The ambassador stood up, his face twisted with rage. "The refugee crisis, 60,000 beings left to die in space. The council blamed engine failure." More and more species began to react. Some shouted in anger, some cried in grief. They had suspected the truth, but they had never seen the proof. "They were not protecting the galaxy," said. "They were terrorizing it, and the council let them, because they were strong and everyone else was weak." He looked directly at the High Chancellor. "That ends today." The chamber exploded into chaos. Species shouted at each other. Old grudges surfaced. Alliances cracked. The representatives tried to leave, but guards blocked their path. The High Chancellor raised his hand, and slowly the noise died down. "The Council acknowledges that mistakes were made," he said carefully. "Perhaps we were too quick to dismiss the complaints against the. Perhaps we failed to investigate properly. Perhaps," stepped forward, her eyes blazing, "you let them murder for 100 years. You looked the other way because it was easy, because the victims were small and weak just like us." "We deeply regret," the High Chancellor began. "We do not want your regret," interrupted. "We want justice, real justice, not the pretend justice you have given us before." She pulled out a document and placed it on the podium. "These are our terms. First, the Empire will pay full reparations to every species they have harmed. Every colony they destroyed, every life they took will be compensated." Stood up, "You cannot demand." "Sit down," said coldly. "You lost the right to speak when you killed our children." Sat down. "Second," continued, "humanity will be given a permanent seat on the Galactic Council, not as observers, as full members with full voting rights." The chamber murmured. A permanent seat was a big thing. Only the most powerful species had permanent seats. Third, the Council will create a new justice system, real investigations, real trials, real punishment, no more looking away when the powerful hurt the weak. She looked around the chamber at the hundreds of faces watching her. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We do not want power for its own sake. We just want to live in peace. We want to trade and explore and grow. We want our children to look at the stars without fear. Her voice softened. But we will not be victims again. We will not watch our people die while the galaxy laughs. If anyone attacks us, if anyone hurts our people, we will respond. Not with anger, not with cruelty, but with absolute, unstoppable force. The chamber was silent again. The High Chancellor looked at the other permanent members of the Council. They were the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. They had ruled for thousands of years. One by one they nodded. "The Council accepts your terms," the High Chancellor said. "From this day forward, humanity will have a permanent seat. The will pay reparations, and we will reform our justice system." Nodded, "Then we have nothing more to discuss." She turned and walked out of the chamber. The rest of the human delegation followed. They did not look back. Outside in the corridor caught up too. "Do you think they will keep their promises?" she asked. Smiled sadly. "Some will, some will not, but they will all remember what happened when they broke their word to us. They will all remember what nothing can do." Put his hand on her shoulder. "You did well in there. The dead would be proud." Thought about the 12,000 who died on 7. She thought about the families who would never be whole again. She thought about the children who would never grow up. "I hope so," she said quietly. "I hope it was enough." They walked together toward their ship, the eyes of the galaxy watching them. Something had changed today, something fundamental. The balance of power had shifted. Humanity was no longer nothing. And the galaxy would never forget it. 1 year had passed since Operation Black Dawn. The galaxy was different now. Everyone could feel it. The old rules had changed. The old powers had fallen. And in the middle of it all stood humanity, no longer the forgotten species on the edge of known space. Ambassador sat in her new office on the council station. It was bigger than her old office. Much bigger. As a permanent member of the council, she now had access to rooms and resources she had never dreamed of. But the responsibility was bigger too. Every day, species came to her with their problems. The wanted help rebuilding their mining stations. The needed food supplies for their struggling colonies. The refugees needed ships to return to their homeland. They all came to the humans now, not because humans were the strongest, not because humans had the biggest fleet. They came because humans had proven something rare in the galaxy. They could be trusted. "Another delegation is waiting," her assistant said. "The Confederation. They want to discuss a trade agreement." Nodded, "Send them in." They were a small species, barely 3 feet tall with bright blue skin. They had been bullied by larger species for centuries. When they fell, they were the first to reach out to humanity. "Ambassador," the leader said, bowing his head, "thank you for seeing us." "Please sit down," said. "Tell me what you need." The meeting lasted 2 hours. When it was over, both sides had agreed to a fair trade deal. The left with smiles on their faces. Watched them go and felt a warmth in her heart. This was why they had fought, not for power, not for revenge, for the chance to build something better. On Earth, Admiral had retired from the military. He spent his days in a small house by the ocean, watching the waves and thinking about the past. Sometimes old soldiers visited him. Jin came every month to play chess, brought her children to swim in the sea, called every week to check on him. They were family now, bound together by what they had done. One afternoon, a young officer knocked on his door. She was barely 20 years old, fresh from the academy. "Admiral," she said nervously, "I am sorry to bother you, sir, but I wanted to ask you something." Smiled and invited her in. "What is your question, young one?" "I read about Operation Black Dawn in school," she said. Everyone says you are a hero, but I wanted to know. How did it feel to destroy so much, to cause so much death? Was quiet for a long moment. He looked out at the ocean, watching the waves crash against the shore. It felt terrible, he said finally. Every death weighed on my heart, even the enemy deaths. They were living beings and I ended their lives. The young officer looked confused. But they attacked us, they killed our people. They did, agreed. And we had to stop them. But taking a life is never something to celebrate. The moment you start enjoying it, the moment you start to feel nothing, that is when you become the monster. He turned to look at her. We fight to protect the ones we love, not because we enjoy war. When the fighting is over, we put down our weapons and rebuild. We heal the wounds. We try to be better. The young officer nodded slowly. I think I understand. Good, smiled. Now go be a good officer, protect the innocent, and never forget that our greatest strength is not our weapons, it is our hearts. Things were changing too. Was gone. He had been tried for war crimes and sentenced to life in prison. The new government was younger, more open to peace. They were working hard to pay their reparations and rebuild their reputation. It was not easy. Many species still hated them. Many species still remembered the pain they had caused. But slowly, day by day, things were getting better. A new memorial stood in the capital city. It was a simple wall of stone with 12,000 names carved into it. The names of the humans who died on 7. Every day, citizens came to the wall. Some left flowers. Some left notes of apology. Some just stood in silence, reading the names and trying to understand what their people had done. A young child stood at the wall one morning, looking at the names. Father, she asked, why did we hurt these people? Her father was quiet for a moment. Because we were afraid, he said finally. We thought they would become stronger than us, so we attacked them first. But that is wrong, the child said. You should not hurt people because you are afraid. Yes, her father agreed. You are right, we were wrong, and we must never make that mistake again. The child nodded and placed a small flower at the base of the wall. Then she took her father's hand, and they walked away together. In the darkness of space, the human fleet patrolled the borders of known space. They were not looking for war. They were looking for peace. But they were ready, always ready, in case someone tried to hurt their people again. Commander Jin sat in his captain's chair, watching the stars drift by. Sir, his officer said, we are receiving a distress call from a small trading ship. They say they are under attack by pirates. Jin did not hesitate. Set course to intercept, maximum speed. The human warship turned and accelerated toward the distress signal. When they arrived, they found a small ship surrounded by pirate vessels. This is Commander Jin of the Human Defense Fleet, he broadcast. Release that ship immediately or face the consequences. The pirates hesitated. They had heard the stories about humans. They had seen what humans could do. We are leaving, the pirate leader said quickly. No harm done, just a misunderstanding. The pirates fled into the darkness. The captain appeared on the screen, tears running down his blue face. Thank you, he said. Thank you so much. We thought we were going to die. Jin smiled gently. You are safe now. We will escort you to the nearest station. Why do you help us? The captain asked. We are small and weak. We have nothing to offer you. Jin thought about the question for a moment. Because no one deserves to be afraid, he said. Because the strong should protect the weak, not prey on them. Because that is who we are. The captain bowed his head. The galaxy is lucky to have you. Jin watched the small ship fly alongside his warship, and he thought about all the battles he had fought, all the pain and death and sacrifice. But moments like this made it worth it. Moments when they could help someone instead of hurt them. Moments when they could be the protectors instead of the destroyers. That night on worlds across the galaxy, beings looked up at the stars and felt something new. Hope. Hope that tomorrow would be better than today. Hope that the strong would protect the weak. Hope that kindness would triumph over cruelty. Humanity had shown them something powerful. They had shown that you could be gentle and strong at the same time, that mercy and justice could exist together, that the smallest species could change the galaxy if they stood together. On Earth, Ambassador stood on a balcony, looking up at the night sky. Somewhere out there, millions of beings were looking at the same stars. "We did it," she whispered to the 12,000 who would never see this day. "We changed things. We made it better." A warm wind blew across her face, carrying the smell of flowers from the garden below. "Rest now," she said softly. "You are not forgotten. You will never be forgotten." She closed her eyes and smiled. The galaxy was finally at peace. And humanity, the species that was once called nothing, had made it happen.